Thank you, Jackie. Kristi Haik.
This letter is an account of the true story of the life of Mrs. M.E. Fields, who went by Lizzie. Honorable Woodbridge and Ferris, Big Rapids, Michigan. My dear Governor Ferris, do you remember speaking to a group of college students at Mount Pleasant during the summer of 1914? Do you remember how we all stood up to greet you with the handkerchief salute? During the speech that day, you made the following statement. The only qualifications a person needs to have to enter Ferris Institute is a deep down desire to learn. We take the student at the point where he is and help him get where he wants to be. Regardless of sex, race, age, or financial condition, if a person really desires to learn, he or she will be welcome at the Ferris Institute. And the very next summer of 2015, I put you to the test. A group of us teachers were waitresses at a summer resort in Harbor Springs. Lizzie, age 40, colored, was the cook and one of the most lovable persons I've ever known. Everyone loved her. I never look at a certain package of pancake flour without thinking of her. She made our lives happy with her songs and her jokes. One day I happened to find her reading in her cookbook, but the book was upside down. Jokingly, I asked her if she had upside down vision. She burst out crying and sobbed, "Honey, if I only knew how to read. I never wanted anyone to know about it, but now that you know, would you be willing to come in my room evenings and read to me?" For many evenings, I read to her and wrote letters for her. But one letter, Governor Ferris, I sent you without telling her about it. I told you her age and color and how much she wanted to learn to read and write. I knew that she would have money enough to pay you because she was a professional cook and saved her money. Back came the letter from you that meant the opening of a closed door for Lizzie. You wrote that you had 2 colored men in your college in former years, but no colored women. That housing might be a problem and her age was against her, but if she wanted to come to Ferris Institute, you would see that she had a teacher. Everyone who made Lizzie happy became one of her angels. Needless to say, after I read your letter to her, you immediately became her leading angel. We began making plans for her to attend Ferris Institute the following summer of 1916. She went back to her job of cooking for a college fraternity in Champaign, Illinois, and I to my job of teaching in St. Louis. Once in a while, she would have someone write a letter to me, and finally, in the spring of 1916, she sent me the money to go to Champaign to get her. After being royally treated by a few of Lizzie's angels during commencement week, we started for Big Rapids. We went to Chicago, where we took a boat to Muskegon, and from there, a train to Lizzie's cherished goal, Big Rapids. Now you know how children act when they start school for the first time. Well, Lizzie was more than a dozen children. She was bursting with pride that she, colored though she was, could go to school and learn to read and write. You were not there the day we arrived, but your friend and vice president of the college, Mr. Garrett Masselink, took good care of us. He was so nice to Lizzie. He made her feel so welcome. He had found a place for her to live where she could have kitchen privileges. When we left him, Lizzie had a good old-fashioned cry. They were tears of pure joy. We went to her rooming house, and her landlady made her feel very much at home. Now, Lizzie was the only colored person in the town of Big Rapids. She took me to my train when I left, and on the way, we passed a lady and her little daughter of about 5 years old. The child stopped in her tracks, stared at Lizzie with big eyes, and turning to her mother, piped, "Mama, don't that lady ever wash her hands and face?" The lady grabbed the child's hand and hurried on, but Lizzie and I just looked at each other and burst out laughing. You know that Lizzie was accepted from the very beginning of her term at school. She always dressed in spotless white, both indoor and outdoor, and made a very attractive figure on campus. She was jolly, sympathetic, and endowed with a lot of what we call common sense. Before the term was over, students were flocking around her like bees around clover blossom. They would ask her advice about all things of their affairs, from cooking recipes, budgeting their money and home buying, to love problems and life careers. But best of all, Lizzie learned to read and write. I will never forget the first letter I had from her. in her own handwriting. It looked like the belabored writing of my own primary school children. Ferris Institute has been truly called the Opportunity School. As you know, Lizzie attended your school for several summers. I visited her during her second term, and it was then when I met you and attended one of your daily morning pep talks. 2 things you said that morning I shall never forget. I wrote them down, and here they are. This old world needs more justice and less charity. And when a man gets too old to learn, it's time for him to climb into a hearse and be driven to the cemetery, for he is dead to the world as he will ever be. Thank you, Mr. Ferris, for stimulating my faith in humanity. You really practice what you preach. And that is why here in Michigan, we call you our good gray governor. Sincerely, Edith Wolter.